Good morning. You're watching All You Need to Know on Bloomberg Quint. I'm Darshan Mehta. Let's take a look at what happened as far as the global markets are concerned. And a big drop that you saw on the Dow, 560 points down. Overall, if you're looking at it on a YTD basis, both the Dow as well as S&P have now moved on a negative territory. If you're looking at what's the traction for the European markets, they may manage to end in the green because the drop came in the second half. But Asia across the street is bleeding in trade. Let's take a look at what the SGX Nifty is doing, and that's indicating a negative opening of close to 126 points, which will mean that the Nifty will open close to the 10,600 mark in trade. So all the gains that we saw on Friday will be wiped out. ADRs were down in trade. Vedanta was down 2%. Tata Motors, Infosys also down. So in fact, all the ADRs ended with a negative bias. Now, if you're looking at what happened, the Nifty was up 90 points in trade, mainly led on account of only a few stocks. But that managed to outperform the mid-cap and the small-cap end of the market. The Nifty was up 90 points. The Nifty Bank managed to do well. It was up almost 1.5%, solely on account of the big surge that you saw in Kotak, and ICICI Bank contributed, and the PSU banking index was flat in trade. Now, a couple of indices that were in focus. The media index did well. It was up almost 1%, led by Z, and the metal index continues to bleed. It's down by almost 0.5%. Now, where were flows going? FI sold in 817 crores. DIs bought in 240 crores in the cash market. Overall, if you see, the Nifty was up 90 points, and that was only on account of a few stocks. A majority of it came in because of the big move in Kotak Mahindra Bank, Reliance, ICICI Bank, Infosys. All of them have large weightages on the Nifty, and they managed to contribute. The companies which had smaller weightages on the Nifty didn't fell significantly, but couldn't have much of an impact on the Nifty. HCL Tech was down 6%, given the fact that of the acquisition that they did. On the F&O side of the market, you saw fresh buying that came in both on the Nifty and the Bank Nifty. Open interest built up of 3% on the Nifty and close to 11% on the Bank Nifty, and the Bank Nifty moved on account of a select few banks. Now, where are positions taken? We managed to move up significantly. So 10,500 is the support and 11,000 is the resistance. Call writers are active from 10,700 to higher levels, and put writers from 10,800 to lower levels. Now, what has happened is that the SGX Nifty is indicating we will open close to the 10,600 mark in trade. So put writers at 10,600, 700 and 800 will be forced to shed positions because the premiums will go up significantly, and call writers will be in the position to make money because premiums will drop significantly. What will happen as far as today's trade is concerned? Pretty much the exact reverse of this chart. The green lines will be up and the red lines will be down. So that's the traction that you will see in trade today. As far as the PCR is concerned, the Nifty PCR managed to move up. The Bank Nifty PCR also managed to come up again above the 1 level mark in trade. Which are the stocks that managed to move up on high open interest build up? First of all, Muthoot Finance reacted positively to the numbers. HCL Tech reacted negatively to the news of the acquisition. Kotak Mahindra Bank moved up on high open interest build up. Oil India saw fresh shorts and fresh buying was seen on MRPL. In terms of companies which saw open interest decline, apart from Torrent Power, which saw long unwinding that came in, all the other counters saw short covering in the shares itself. So these are all the domestic cues. Let's go across to Paul Allen for all the top international headlines.
Oil is searching for direction after the OPEC Plus group delivered bigger output curbs than expected, defying President Trump's call to keep the taps open. Saudi Arabia, Russia and the rest of the alliance ended 2 days of talks in Vienna by agreeing to remove 1.2 million barrels a day from the market in the first quarter of next year. The vast majority of the reduction will be shouldered by Saudi Arabia. Theresa May is entering probably the most important week of her career, with predictions her Brexit deal is dead and she'll face a vote of no confidence. The Prime Minister's critics are calling for her to reopen negotiations with the EU, even though Brussels has repeatedly said the current deal is the only one on the table. The government insists there are no plans to delay Tuesday's debate on the Brexit bill. President Emmanuel Macron is to address France later on Monday after another weekend of violent protests across the country. The president has seen his approval ratings collapse as the so-called yellow vest demonstrations continue. Critics say he needs a grand gesture to admit errors, stick to the substance of his mandate and convince sceptical opponents. More protests are expected next weekend. Carlos Ghosn remains in custody in Tokyo, with reports saying he will be formally charged later on Monday with understating his compensation. But there are differing versions of what led to his arrest. The Wall Street Journal says he wanted to shake up senior management and replace CEO Hiroto Saikawa. However, sources tell Bloomberg there was no such plan, even though relations between the two were strained. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Paul Allen. This is Bloomberg.
As of now, the decision is made for 6 months. If needed, if we see that the market needs this cut to continue, we could extend it. We have this option. But at the same time, if we see that the market needs more oil, we have all the instruments in place to make adjustments. We're flexible.
This deal caught a lot of people by surprise. Again, the OPEC Plus group, which includes Russia, said they would cut production by 1.2 million barrels a day starting next year for 6 months. I think, you know, initially a lot of people didn't think this would happen. Saudi Arabia's Energy Minister Khalid Al-Falih said on Thursday, you know, he was very dubious that a deal would get done. But then once they announced the deal, the agreement on Friday, prices really jumped. Brent jumped as much as 6% to around $64 a barrel before pairing those gains and trading right around $61 a barrel. But I think that this deal really speaks to this growing, this deepening relationship between Saudi Arabia and Russia, two of the world's largest producers. They worked together on the earlier cuts that started in January of 2017 and lasted for about 18 months that really helped clear global inventories. And now they're going to do it again. Of course, it includes the other members of OPEC, and there were some exemptions for Libya, Iran, and Venezuela. But again, this really speaks to this growing dominance and growing relationship between Saudi Arabia and Russia, and the you know, they're really willing to work together to manage the oil market.
Much to Theresa May's dismay, 17 months of negotiations, the most important deal negotiation that the UK has entered into since World War II. She's determined to push ahead, though, and get the vote on Tuesday as planned. And it's interesting, many people speaking out on the Sunday news shows in the UK today, including Boris Johnson. He is a former foreign minister under Theresa May, former mayor of London. He said this deal means the EU has the power to, in effect, blackmail the UK. We're going to stay under their wing, under their rules for far too long. And in fact, the Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay, the current Brexit Secretary, there have been a few, no plans to delay the vote. He said, we're prepared for a hard Brexit. However, we hope everyone reconsiders, because this deal, the result would be undesirable. As for the EU, in France, the foreign minister saying talks are closed. It's now up to Britain to decide. And EU's Donald Tusk saying, I had a phone call with Theresa May, and it looks like a very important week for the fate of Brexit. I would say that's probably the understatement of the day. Theresa May has her work cut out for her. It's hard to say how she could do anything to change so much opposition. We know that there has to be 48 no confidence votes for people to actually challenge her leadership as prime minister. Oh, so far only 24 are public. But you get the feeling that the sharks are circling at the water, and as soon as those little drops of political blood fall, if this deal falls, that there'll be a lot more no confidence votes out there. It remains to be seen.
Ashoka Buildcon will be in focus today after the company received a big 794 crore rupees order from Rail Vikas Nigam for the construction of railways and other construction activities. Escorts would be in focus as well after the company completely exited its crane business following the sale of its existing stake in RT Crane for about 35 crore rupees to Japan-based Tadano Corporation. Mangalam Drugs would be in focus as well after the company received the WHO approval for its Unit 1. IFC came out with its Q2 numbers. They reported a negative net interest income of about 16 crore rupees versus a net interest income of 223 crore in the same quarter last year, as well as a net loss of 16.5 crores versus a 294 crore net loss in the same quarter. IOCL would be in focus as well, as the company announced that it would be considering the proposal of a share buyback and dividend at its board meeting on December 13th. Tata Sponge has received the government's clearance, has received the environment clearance from the government to increase its production capacity of DRI, which stands for direct reduced iron, from 425,000 tons per annum to 465,000 tons per annum. Also, watch out for HEG, wherein the company in its investor presentation says that it is looking at opportunities to export graphite electrode to China. Along with that, Suzlon would also be in focus on the back of an ET report that the company's subsidiary Suzlon Green Energy is looking to sell close to 49% stake in its operations and services arm for a valuation of about 8,000 crore rupees. In key bulk deals, watch out for Texmaco Rail, wherein ace investor Porunju Velia, through his equity intelligence fund, has sold close to 29 lakh shares, about 1.3% stake combined through his fund as well as his PMS. On the other hand, Equitas Investment PMS, that has bought in close to 34 lakh shares at a price of about 51 rupees per share.
Well, the exit polls after the last vote has been cast present a very interesting picture before result day, when we will know the outcome of elections in 5 states. Let's take a quick look first at what the key headlines are out of these exit polls. Here, Kaushik, I think important to note that we've picked a specific set of exit polls, right, narrowed it down, and this is the picture we've come up.
These are agencies that have carried out exit polls over a number of years, and those that have seemed to have had a sample size that's broad enough over the years to reach a point where you think that you can get that and put that to our viewers. 5 key points here. The first one is that in 2 of those states, the Congress is seen as getting to that halfway mark. That's Rajasthan and to an extent in Madhya Pradesh. Remember, these are both states that in 2013 the Congress lost very badly.
Yeah, and in Chhattisgarh is a very interesting situation where Raman Singh seems like he will scrape through once again. We'll come to all the details in that, but first the headlines very quickly. It also means that BJP could face a setback, a pretty huge one, in the Hindi heartland of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, and the Congress may take away 2 of these 3 Hindi-speaking states, which will have a huge impact ahead of 2019. But let's come to Madhya Pradesh, and we'll go through each of those sets in a bit of detail. Madhya Pradesh would be the big surprise, because even a couple of months ago it seemed like Mamaji Shivraj Singh Chauhan would come through for a 4th term. The polls don't say that too clearly. So
let's look at them, right, very quickly. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them showing a healthy lead for the Congress. That halfway mark is 115, 116. There's only 1 that's giving the BJP a win, a clear win. The rest of them are showing the Congress ahead. So when you tally that up, it's showing the Congress and the BJP. Remember, this is an outlier number, which is what's skewing this towards.
You know, just a note, which is something you don't see in the graphic, Access My India shows pretty much the same header, right, but it gives a 1% extra vote share. They've done a vote share prediction as well. So they give 42% of the vote to the Congress and 41% to the BJP, which is why we're saying 3 out of 5 show a Congress win, 1 neck-to-neck position. It is something which will definitely make the BJP uncomfortable.
That's right. And any of the others are parties necessarily that you would think that are more amenable to the Congress's smaller parties than the BJP, having run the state for the last 15 years.
Well, it's unlikely to come to a split verdict, but then we'll see how clear this is. Let's move on to Rajasthan. Now, Rajasthan, you know why I find Rajasthan very interesting, Kaushik, is because in the last week or so, there was this narrative that the BJP has managed to pull it back.
You did hear that, because you heard of let the Prime Minister go in for his slogovers campaigning, for his carpet bombing of rallies that he's known to do in state after state. So you got the sense from BJP workers saying they were waiting for that to see if it could be clawed back. This is a state that was seen as one that was slipping out of the BJP's hands a few months ago. Raji did get her way in choice of candidates and things like who she wanted and how this election campaign should be run, and not from Delhi. But that said, those numbers are pretty evident.
Those numbers are actually very evident. There is only 1 poll, Jan Ki Baat, which is giving the BJP really a very marginal position and a lead over here with 83 to 103, which is a range. I've also noticed this time around, posters have been careful.
I feel they've been careful.
That's right.
You know, where they're trying to show a direction but not sticking their necks out, and possibly because this is such a close contest and such an important set of election numbers as well. Let's go to Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh is fascinating because in the last minute you had a googly of sorts with Ajit Jogi and Mayawati coming together for a combination. It seems to have not done much harm to the Congress or the BJP, but they could be seeing themselves in a very important role in a couple of these polls. At least the Jan Ki Baat one is one where they could have an important role.
One caveat about this, right? And you brought this up in the piece on BloombergQuint.com that you put up earlier this week, that the margin of vote share between the Congress and the BJP in Chhattisgarh has been very narrow. And for the last 3 elections in this state, for much of the day, you don't know who's winning in Chhattisgarh. 2003, 2008, 2013, I can tell you that. Having watched that, you didn't know who was winning the state. And it's only in those last few rounds, watch for Tuesday, that you might see a breakout in one party's favor. These are parties that are fairly evenly divided in vote share, as have been for the last 15 years.
You know, I'll just end that with one, quote that Ajit Jogi gave to me when he spoke with me yesterday. He said, Raman Singh is born lucky.
Is it?
He manages to scrape through every time. Do go on BloombergQuint.com and watch that interview. Let's see if he is 4th time lucky. And that's what most of the pollsters are also saying. Let's come to Telangana. Telangana is also a very interesting one because the moment you had INC plus TDP, arithmetically they were ahead, but most pollsters seem to believe that KCR will pull through.
This one is interesting, right? Because the Congress was notionally with the TRS when Telangana was a state that for many of those years was a request or a demand that KCR had, leaves the UPA, forms a government in the state. The TDP, this is a bit of this would also be a state that's hard to poll.
Yeah.
Right? Because the TDP was with the NDA till 6 months ago. They've joined with the Congress now. So this whole, when parties that are inherently parties that have seen each other as rivals come together, I'd find it very hard for a pollster to find out if there's any voter transferability or not. So I'd say of the 5, this one's the tough one for any exit poll to get right.
No, but they stuck their necks out. And in fact, Axis My India is giving them 91 seats on the upper limit. KCR has 90 right now, but he won 63.
That's right.
So all of those were people he pulled out of TDP and Congress. Let's see if this happens. Telangana again close to call, but as of today, it seems like KCR's gambit of pulling the plug on his government 9 months early may have paid off. Mizoram. Let's come to Mizoram as well. We have 2 polls over here with predictions, and both of them show the Mizo National Front ahead, but not by a massive margin. You need 21 to form the government, and they may just cross through. The others will play a significant role here.
So this part, right, the MNF is a party that's seen aligned to the NDA.
Yes,
so,
but not in the state.
Fair enough. The narrative, if the Hindi heartland is protected, then, and if this one comes into the MNF, then the Northeast, the narrative will be, is free of the Congress, is what Amit Shah, Narendra Modi and other leaders will go to town saying, look, this is now a region that is in complete control of the NDA and would go on, as they would say, on the development model that they want to take it on. That's the one state that the Congress still has in the Northeast. Let's wind back to why this election in 5 different states in 3 different parts of the country is so important. So let's go back to those 5 key points and the points you made about this.
Yeah. You know, BJP leaders today will be having a very uncomfortable time right till the results are announced, because if they lose the Hindi heartland, then even some kind of a proxy gain in Mizoram is not going to cut it.
Exactly.
65 seats between Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan. They had 63 of them, 62 of them in 2014, and that's an important chunk in the context of 2019.
It's pretty much everything, right? Yeah. These are the states, along with Gujarat, and to an extent UP, they did lose 5 seats. These are the 7 seats in UP. These are the states that they swept completely, all in Gujarat, all in Rajasthan, other than 2, all in MP.
We don't know if state votes will transfer, but the long and short of it is that whatever happens on result day, it is going to change the perception for both Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi.
Which is what had happened 5 years ago. When these were states that the BJP swept, you realized the extent of what was coming 6 months later. So as you said, and these are samples that different polling agencies, remember, these are samples that different polling agencies have put together that they think are representative of the electorate. You will find numbers coming in different bursts on Tuesday. Through that, you will see probably numbers consolidate over hours. So this is not necessarily an election that you get a clear trend on immediately or immediately in the first hour or two on Tuesday. So keep watching Bloomberg Quint, and we have a special election page for you this time around on which you'll be able to get your hold of some of that data, see what you want to see, and read a lot of in-depth analysis.
So do stay tuned, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Good.
All right, several stories like they just told you on the website bloombergquint.com, especially that special election page that you should watch for, and particularly markets today. It's going to be a busy day of trade today, so do stay tuned to that. As of now, you'll find a couple of stories on the website. Here are just a few of them. SEBI is planning to expand its offer for sale framework to more companies, relax its norms for clubbing of investment limits by established foreign investors, and tighten insider trading rules. These proposals, along with several others, are likely to be discussed by SEBI in its board meeting this week. White House Chief of Staff John Kelly will step down towards the end of the year, removing a key force for West Wing discipline from President Donald Trump's inner circle. Kelly's departure follows other senior aides who have headed for the exits in recent weeks. That's all you need to know going into trade today. Up next is Indian Open, so do stay tuned. This is Bloomberg Quint.